welcome to Tornado Talk. I'm your co-host, Wes Spikerman, a senior from Wayne, Pennsylvania.
And I'm your other co-host, David Mosley from Driggs, Idaho. Our guest today teaches middle school and high school Chinese, has taught at Macaulay for several years, and lives on campus with his wife and 3 kids. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Carson Murphy.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to be here.
Glad you are here. Not only does he go by Carson Murphy, but he has another name. I am afraid to mispronounce it, Mr. Murphy.
Go for it.
No. I'm good.
I got this one.
David's got it.
All right.
Ma Lao Shi.
Yeah. Not bad.
Yes.
Ma Lao Shi. Mm-hmm.
I messed it up. My bad.
Yeah.
You didn't say anything bad, though. That's all right.
Yeah. It's so easy to mispronounce it and say something horrible.
Very true. A brief shout out to our sister school. Congrats to the GPS soccer team for winning the state championship.
Yeah.
Good work, ladies.
Big
That
deal.
is awesome. So go Bruisers. BRUISERS. Let's go Bruisers. Go GPS.
Nice. I'm surprised. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I've
Good work.
been practicing that one for the last week. So I've been very excited.
Your practice paid off.
Yeah, I hope so. So let's jump right into our first game. This one is called Quick Fire. Basically, we are going to ask you a series of questions, and you have to respond with the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Are you ready? You have to have your mind completely clear before we start.
Mhm.
Completely clear my mind.
Let's
You
try
reckon?
and keep it PG.
Keep it PG. Are there wrong answers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
First thing that comes to your mind, though.
All right.
All right, ready? I'll hit him with the first one.
All right.
Don't think. Just answer. Don't think. Just answer. Favorite instrument?
Bass.
Nice.
Michael Jordan or Michael Jackson?
Michael Jordan.
And a brief shout out to
Dude,
our very
yeah.
own super fan, Adam. He was the one who came up with that question. Thank you so much, Adam. We loved seeing you. I know David had a great time with you.
It was fantastic. I can't thank you guys enough for your family coming out. It was truly wonderful.
So yeah. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Woo.
All right. Best book you've ever read?
Oh,
Don't think. Just answer.
Wheel of Time.
Ooh, Robert Jordan.
Yes, I've actually read the whole series twice.
That is one of my favorite series of all time.
It's amazing. I reread it last year and I absolutely love it. I'm not thrilled thus far with the Amazon's TV version of it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
For several reasons. However, the books I think are absolutely amazing. I love them.
I just want to take a brief moment. I've never heard of anybody else who has actually read those books besides my family members. How did you find out about the series?
My older brother was really into him, and so he had one of his friends and his dad were really into fantasy novels and epic fantasy, that genre, and so he learned about it when he was in middle school. And then when I got to middle school and wanted to start reading more lengthy novels, he was like, "Hey, you need to check this out." And so I started at that time, and I started reading it before he had finished the series, so I took like a decade off, and then finished it, and then last year ended up rereading it from the beginning.
If you're looking for a lengthy novel, Wheel of Time is the series for you. I believe there are a total of 14 books, all ranging around the 1,000 page mark.
Yeah.
So they
14,
are massive.
I think 14. He wrote a prequel as well, which for him is a novella, but it's like a 350 page novel. But it's an amazing series.
They're
I love
fantastic. Fantasy novel. It's similar to, it's comparable to Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, but I actually enjoyed it more.
It's
Wow.
I think The Lord of the Rings is probably better literature, a higher quality piece of work. But The Wheel of Time is, what's the word? It's easier to just enjoy on a casual night. There's less thought-provoking material and just more like, oh, this is cool. They're both excellent. I've read The Lord of the Rings more than The Wheel of Time, and I do appreciate it more. However, it's definitely a similar type genre. Brandon Sanderson's another good author who a lot of his...
I was about to ask, have you read any Brandon Sanderson?
Well, I got into
or
him...
Brent Weeks.
No, I don't know Brent Weeks. What's he written?
The Black Prism series.
I don't know.
Very good series.
Definitely read it.
Very good.
Okay, I'm currently reading Game of Thrones, which I've never seen it or read the book, so I'm on the third book in that series. But I got into Brandon Sanderson after finishing The Wheel of Time because Robert Jordan passed away before he could finish it, and Sanderson was chosen by
his wife.
to finish the series.
And he had all the notes with him, and then he like read because
It was so cool.
Because Jordan knew how he wanted to finish the series, and he had all the notes. And then they brought in Sanderson, and Sanderson like used the notes and wrote it like as much as he could, just like Robert Jordan would have.
And Sanderson, I think, wrote a like fan fiction ending.
Yeah,
and that's
did.
how the wife found out about it.
Correct.
And then she was like, "Hey, your writing's really good, and you embody what my husband would have wanted. Can you come write this?"
Yeah.
So he was like,
Yeah, exactly. He loved it. And then now he's a phenomenal fantasy author.
"Oh, absolutely, yeah."
So basically, after I read that, I took it upon myself to read in Brandon Sanderson's novels in his own writing. He has the Cosmere is like a series of connected worlds and stuff. So he writes stuff that's not part of that series and stuff that is. And so I've, at this point, read nearly everything that he's written that's part of that series, and I've loved every book that I've read from him. I mean, he's just a fantastic author as well.
Was he okay? So Brandon Sanderson, that was Mistborn.
Yes.
Mistborn.
Yeah,
Did he write?
Mistborn's
Did he
in-
write Elantris too? Elantris.
Yes, he did write that as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds familiar.
Very good book. But yeah, Elantris was a weird one because it stood alone.
It did. It stood alone, and it's definitely. There's some ways where it's important to read Elantris first, and then you get into some of his other stuff. So like the, I'm blanking on the name of the series now. Rhythm of War was the most recent one from that series. Anyways, where some of the characters and themes from Elantris are hinted at in other books of like, this guy's starting to come back now. But it was a standalone story. And so, anyways, yeah, it's worth checking out. It's a really cool book.
100%.
That was a huge tangent for one quickfire question.
It was a great tangent. Love fantasy.
I didn't know you guys were into that, and I didn't know y'all knew the name Brandon Sanderson. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I was about to say, come on now. It's Brandon Sanderson. He's like maybe one of the best current fantasy authors in the world. So
Next quickfire question.
I know, and it's hard to keep going on.
So empty my mind again?
Empty your mind again.
Don't think, just answer. Keep it PG though.
Okay.
So think a little bit, but not that much.
All right.
All right. Favorite musician?
Oh, gosh. Victor Wooten. It's really hard.
I'm not familiar.
Victor
I
Wooten.
also am not familiar.
Well, that's sad, but it's okay. It's all right. Your education's not done yet. Y'all are still in school, so
I
this
was
is
expecting like Pantera or Metallica.
Oh no! So
like,
I really do love that, and that stuff is great. So, because I'm a big metalhead, so like my favorite band to see is Dream Theater, which is a progressive heavy metal group. Gotten to see them a handful of times, but Victor Wooten's a jazz fusion bassist, and so he is just a phenomenal world-class bass guitar player. If you haven't checked out his stuff, look up. I mean, this was from when I was young. He's a bit older. Is he in his 60s now? Sounds about right. Anyways, but he, one of the first big solo pieces he did is look up Victor Wooten Amazing Grace bass solo. And there's tons of versions of him from like the late 90s, early 2000s on YouTube. You can find it. But he has a whole bunch of different stuff where it's just him playing a bass solo, which is not a lot of people can really do that. And it's just like mind-blowingly good. Yeah. The thing that I love about him is he does the technical stuff that I love in the heavy metal, but he also brings a musicality to it as well, where it's not just shredding, but also including more like real feel and groove to it as well. So he does the flashy stuff, but he also brings some musicality to it as well. I appreciate the just intense thrash, fast-paced, technical, blow your mind type of thing. However, I appreciate him as a musician and artist a lot more.
Yep. And would you said your favorite instrument was bass?
Yes, absolutely.
Have you ever tried to play any of his music? Tried to recreate anything?
Yeah, I've tried lots of times. I mean, never even remotely successfully. I mean, there's like, you have, as far as musicians, I'll speak to bass. You have the beginner players, then you have the intermediate, and then you have advanced players, and then you get into like the Victor Wooten type of category, and it's just like they're almost in a different universe. It's like, so you have, those three levels, and it's like, okay, these guys are just in a totally different orbit. I mean, they're just, the way he thinks about and plays music is amazing. When I was in college, I interned for a different bassist who's also one of my favorite musicians, a guy named Adam Nitty in Nashville. He's a jazz fusion player, has his own studio. And I interned for him in his bass studio for a year, and we invited Victor Wooten to come and do a bass clinic. And since I worked there, I got to attend for free. And so it's just 3 hours of him with a bass guitar talking about music and how he approaches it. And he started the clinic off with just 30 minutes of uninterrupted playing. That's just how he started. And it was, to this day, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. But the way that they talk about music and the way they approach the playing and everything, you can tell, like, the way he thinks about music, it's all just like, wow, like you are really different level in the way that you're approaching all this. You're not just thinking about notes or how you play it, but I don't even know what you're thinking to be able to come up with the things that you do. It's really amazing to see.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the answers are so thoughtful and well in depth.
That
like,
blows me away.
Yeah.
And I'm always curious, if you don't mind me asking, like with heavy metal, because I know some people like would, I don't want to say they wouldn't consider it music, but they like just think it's screaming or
Right.
you know, whatever it may be. Like, what do you see in it that is so musical almost?
Well, I will say there is a subgenres of heavy metal. There are some that I really hate. So like, if I'm on Spotify just listening to a CD that I like recently, Megadeth released a new album a couple weeks ago, and so I was listening to that album, which I like it, it's all right. But anyways, I was listening to it when it finishes, like music like this, and it came on, and the first 3 artists that came on, I was like, I hate this. Like, I can't handle it. So like, I find with heavy metal, I love it, but I very quickly devolve into I love it or I really hate it. I rarely appreciate the screaming. What I love about heavy metal is, let's take a lot of musicality and think classical music when I say that. So like, if you listen to Metallica, especially 1980s Metallica, and then you go back and you listen to a lot of classical music, basically heavy metal at that time, that was the rockers version of classical music. You can learn a lot of the same music theory from the Metallica and Megadeth, those types of bands, that you can from classical music. Classical music they're obviously wildly different, but there's more similar than you would think if you don't know any different. And so I love that. I love the intensity of it. I feel like heavy metal is just, I don't know. The intensity of the music is something that that really appeals to me.
Wow.
Like, I don't think we've ever had someone on the pod, at least not while I've been here, who's like had such like thoughtful responses to like a quick fire question.
That is fascinating.
I'm a thoughtful person.
Truly.
What can I say?
We're learning a lot about Ma Lao Shi. Did I say that right?
Yes, yeah, of course
Yes.
you did. 你上中文四课，哎呀，
中文做的挺什么？
对，
中文二课。
中文二课的
不错。
只有一点。
我不懂。我不懂。
哎呦，
我不说中文。
Now we're gonna actually get into the questions instead of just the opening game.
All right,
我说
sounds
英
good.
文。
All right. You teach both middle school and upper school Chinese class.
I do.
Why do you teach Chinese? What do you love about it?
I love the culture. I love the language. More than anything else, I really love connecting people. And so I love getting to interpret for people, because you get to be that bridge that's connecting two people that maybe they have a lot in common. So for example, talking to parents of Chinese boarding students, like, we have a lot in common. I care about their son. They obviously care about their son, and we both want him to be successful, but there's this language and cultural barrier that can prevent us from being able to work together, or the school being able to work with them. So I can stand in that gap and bridge that to make that relationship happen and also be more successful. I think that's really cool. In the classroom, I really, really love teaching Chinese, because I think if I can do anything to help and inspire students, that when they grow up, like, hey, you could travel anywhere in the world that you want to go. And if you know another language, be it Chinese, Spanish, or anything really, you have the ability now to do anything that you could do in this country, but now you can do it anywhere else in the world. And when you get to travel and interact with those types of people that are so different from you, you can learn and grow so much as a person. And like, really, the world's a big, beautiful place, and it's got so much to offer. And I think there's so much rich diversity that comes from being able to travel around and learn and have those types of experiences. And so I really just want to share that love and passion with students. And so, yeah, it's a bunch of fun. I would hope that my students would leave wanting to travel and wanting to use the language to explore those types of opportunities, be it professional or pleasure or whatever.
And how do you communicate that love for the language, for travel, with such varying ages? Because I know I started Chinese as a junior, and I know
Right.
you've also got students who start as
Seventh.
seventh graders.
Chinese 1A,
And
seventh graders.
that's a
yeah.
very big difference in age, in life experience.
Right.
Like
Relative
yeah,
maturities. Yeah.
Well, I may or may not have the maturity of a seventh grader.
That's
but
why I
a
said
great-
relative.
Yeah, relative. Yeah.
Relative's an excellent word to put as a modifier there before maturity. Yeah, I mean, it is really different. So seventh grade Chinese class is going to feel really, really different than a Chinese 1 or Chinese 2 or 3 class. A lot of that's due to the maturity difference of the students. Some of it's just due to the fact that in the upper school, like Chinese 1, 2, and 3, like that's a high school, pretty challenging academic course. So it's going to focus more on that type of thing. And so in those types of classes, I hope that my enthusiasm for the subject and my care for the students can kind of carry that passion along.
Okay.
But the emphasis is definitely very much like, we got to learn the content.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. We're not here to goof off and have fun. I love the 7th and 8th grade classes because I essentially get 2 years to teach Chinese 1 to guys, and 7th graders are really different. And so there are certain things that cultural differences or vocab words or whatever that might come up in an upper school class that I don't bring those up in a 7th grade classroom for maturity. But there's not a lot of those types of things. I mean, for the most part, really what it looks like is if a 7th grader's got a random question that's totally off the wall and unrelated, like 7th graders often do, we actually have the time to entertain that question and actually have a short discussion about it before we get back to the language. There's a lot more time for, how was your weekend? What did you do? Where did you go? And getting guys to talk about their lives and teaching them how to talk about what they are passionate about. There's a little bit more space for that.
And that's super interesting because I've noticed there is a difference in my vocab and the vocab of the freshmen who were 7th and 8th graders.
It's going to be real different.
They
noticed
know
the same
they
thing.
know a
Yeah.
lot more Chinese, and it's stuff that because we've taken the same course.
Right.
I took it in 1 year, they took it in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But they know words that I've never heard of.
Right.
And it throws me off because I'm like, well, how do you know what this is?
Well, sorry about that.
And
But
and that's super interesting that you have time to entertain those tangents and kind of let the kids move almost where they want to go with the language.
yeah, there's a lot more flexibility there.
Like I remember walking into Chinese 2 on my first day as a sophomore when everything was weird.
Yeah.
And like James Cross came in and he's like, you asked like, 你的周末怎么样? Like, how's your weekend? And he's like, oh, I went skateboarding. And I had no idea what he was talking about. I'm like, is he talking about chemistry? What?
Oh yeah, 滑板,
滑板
skateboard, and 化学 is chemistry. They're totally different. I don't know why you could have mixed those up.
Versus like
yeah.
滑冰 or
Yeah, no, they're
Ice
actually
skating.
they sound very similar. And so yeah, you would have been like, the word that you had learned from the previous year was chemistry because that related to what you were doing in high school.
Yep.
For him as an 8th grader, he was like, yeah, 滑板, skateboarding.
yes.
So, yeah, those types of things. It's fun. That will happen in Chinese too, because middle schoolers come on up and they know a lot of random words that you won't know. And yeah, so I hope that experience hasn't been bad for you.
Oh, it's been horrible. I just sit. I sit there for the first 15 minutes as we talk about our weekends, and I'm like, that is awesome. Like that is so cool, and I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah. No clue.
Yeah. How did you learn Chinese? I think you might have told me this before. How did you learn Chinese?
Against my will.
I've heard
So-
this story before.
My family moved to China. My parents were English teachers at a couple different Chinese universities. We moved when I was 14. So it was December of my sophomore year and in high school. And we moved to Dalian, China. My parents picked that because there was no English there spoken at the city at that time. It was in 2003. So there was, there was more Russian than English around. So it was definitely very much like learn Chinese or be a really lonely teenager with no friends. And so I learned Chinese. I also had a couple tutors. It was about 4 hours a day, all during high school with either one-on-one classes or with my younger sister. And I did not enjoy the language learning process for the first year and a half of it. I really hated it. And I was a terrible student, rarely doing any of my homework, and was just bored. Well, no, I was beyond bored. I was just angry about it, really. But then about a year and a half in, I started realizing, oh, I'm going and hanging out with my friends. We played Ultimate Frisbee a bunch. And so it's like, oh, I'm able to like play Ultimate with a bunch of my friends who are my peers. And I haven't spoken English for the past 3 hours. Like we played this game and then we went out to eat, and I haven't spoken English for 3 hours, and I'm just hanging out with people and having a good time. There was this day where it just clicks like, oh, this is actually really cool.
Wow.
And so from there, then
Wow.
I started to really enjoy it and develop a love for it. And my passion is definitely more for the connection piece than it is just for the content of like diving deep into study of the Chinese language. I find it fascinating and the culture fascinating, but that connection and those relationships is definitely like what really made my passion for it come alive.
Wow.
It's pretty awesome.
It's always crazy to hear about stories like that. Man, it's hard to move on from that.
No,
Watch
we gotta
this.
keep
Watch
moving,
this.
we
I'm
gotta
gonna tie two things together.
go for it.
China, right? You were in China. You lived in China.
I did.
You did live in China.
I did.
Music. You love music.
I do love
Right? You
music.
see where I'm going with this?
Oh,
You see where
I
I'm
know
going with this?
exactly.
I know
where-
exactly
I know
where
exactly
you're
where he's going with this one.
So, and I believe you had a band.
I joined a band.
Joined a band.
I did not start.
Was that while in China?
Yes.
What does that look like?
Yeah, why don't you just
Yeah.
give us a couple of details of what the band was like, Mr.
in
Murphy?
China.
It's, I mean,
What kind of music did you play?
Yeah.
that's
what-
a great question. You have no idea what the answer to this question is, do you?
I know what
Genuinely-
it is.
Whatever. So yes, I did. After I graduated high school, I took a year off where I just stayed in China, studied the language full time. And during that year, I had a lot of free time. So I ended up, through a random series of connections of guys I met at guitar stores, I joined a Chinese death metal band. It was a lot of fun. The name of the band was Siling, which means the souls of the dead.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Had like the spiked collar, spiked bracelet, all that stuff. It was great. I couldn't wear the spiked bracelet though because it scratched my bass once, and so I took that off my wrist. But yeah, it was a bunch of fun. It was the exact genre of music is melodic death metal. So death metal, not heavy metal, because there's only screaming and not singing, but it's melodic. So there's a lot of orchestral stuff, and it's definitely more melody driven than just like your typical like stuff.
Right.
So there's a lot of really crazy lead guitar stuff, a lot of harmonies between bass and guitars and stuff. It was a bunch of fun. It was really a completely failed project that was amazingly fun, but like never went anywhere nor would ever go anywhere. No potential for commercial success whatsoever, but I got to hang out with those guys every Friday night for a year, and those are my favorite memories of being in China. They're really great. So it was a lot of fun.
And it was all in another. You were doing it all in another language.
Yeah, none of those guys could speak English at all.
Wow.
And so,
That's crazy. Well, okay, was the music in Chinese too?
yeah, it was in Chinese. And so I actually asked some of the other guys, I said, what are the lyrics on the songs? And everybody except for the singer was like, we don't know. We can't understand any of this. And so it was all screamo, and they're like, we can't understand it. I was like, okay, so we know what the name of the song is. Do we know anything else about it? Nope. All right.
Fair enough.
But the great part was that we covered some other bands like Arch Enemy, and the biggest song that we spent the most time covering was Cowboys from Hell by Pantera.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which was a lot of fun. The singer, though, like he couldn't speak a word of English. And so when he would sing that song, he listened to it enough to memorize like what it sounded like. So it sounded like he was speaking English, but every now and then a certain word or something would come up and be like, wait, what? Like he would just, the way he said it was a little off. And so it was actually really funny to listen to him scream. I mean, he turned it into straight death metal, so he was just full on screaming that song, which worked for the genre, but it was a bunch of fun.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That is awesome. Would you say that love for music, you've been able to share that with like guys at Macaulay or back in the States?
In some aspects, in some capacities, yes. And in many, no. And so I did like some afternoon activities for a couple years of like ear training. Jackson did that with me along with some other guys. That was a bunch of fun. Learning how to learn music by ear was essentially what we did. And teaching bass and guitar lessons was a lot of fun. I've gotten to take some guys to concerts. So yes, to an extent, I would love to do more, but at the same time, also just realizing like time is limited, you know, and I also have 3 young kids at home. And so I'm in a season of life where I just don't have a bunch of spare time in the evenings or weekends to do things that I might otherwise like to do with students. And teaching Chinese in both schools is a full-time job, and I love it. But that just means that there's not as much space for music and those types of deals.
Yeah.
Although Malao Sure, what he does, and I remember this in Chinese too, he would combine music and teaching, and we had a cultural presentation, I think is how you described it, where he brought out his 5-string bass and started playing bass lines while trying to teach us Chinese.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that happens still. Yeah,
It's
although I
fantastic.
don't do it.
Wait.
Did we not do that? No, I didn't do that.
No,
last
we
year.
did not do that.
No, we didn't do that. I didn't do that
Dude,
last year.
you missed out.
So-
Obviously, I missed out. Do you teach Chinese 1/6 period?
No, I teach Chinese 3/6 period.
Well, now I'm host because I'll never be able to see the Chinese bass performance.
Dude,
Uh,
it was awesome.
The bass performance is only in the middle school because I have a really massive bass rig that I used to use in college when I played, and my wife won't let me keep it in the house because it's too big. And so it's in my middle school classroom. So the reason you got it in Chinese too is because that was the COVID year, and our class had to be in that
middle
room because it
school,
was a
yeah.
lot larger. And so typically it's only my middle school classes that get that.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Wow.
I mean, it's this.
Is this like a second?
massive
Is this like a
5-string-
second semester thing? Because like the senior slide would go great if I could skip down to the middle school for a bass performance.
It's a Chinese New Year thing. So similar. Do you remember last
I could
year?
definitely get that's an excuse
Did
I can
you-
make.
Yeah,
Did
I'm
you,
sure Dr. Wu will let you do that.
100%.
But
Definitely.
Wu Lao sure's got my back.
No way.
no, not at all.
Now Wu Lao sure loves me, right? Wu Lao sure.
There's no way she listens to the
Yeah,
podcast.
she doesn't mess with me.
She'd hit you with the Enjing Bizai.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know what that means.
That means be quiet, shut up.
But yeah, she probably would say that.
That's one way to say it. I prefer 请你闭嘴.
Please shut your
Please
mouth.
shut your mouth.
Please shut up.
I
yeah.
got that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't need to shut up. We can continue going.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I'll let you handle the next question because I forgot where we were.
Well, now we're closing.
Or now we're closing?
I know it is a bummer,
That is a kind
but
of
our
bummer.
fun time has come to an end. But that does not mean we're done having fun. It is time for a little game we like to call
Guess That Teacher.
That was our tryout to be in your band.
No, not at all. I
We
enjoy you
tried.
both as people. I'll let y'all be like cheerleaders. Y'all can be groupies. It'll be awesome. But
Be a roadie. I don't know.
yeah,
hook stuff
yeah,
up.
that's
I'm
okay.
cool with that. Okay, so we have got 5 hints for you.
Okay.
And David, I will let you start us off.
Yeah. So just to be clear, the way it works is we're going to give you 5 pieces of information, and it's your job, based off of those 5 pieces of information, to guess who the faculty member we're describing is.
Okay.
Got it?
Is this faculty and staff or just faculty?
Faculty and staff.
Okay.
It could be anybody on campus
Who gets paid?
Okay. Got it.
who's on the Macaulay payroll. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
No,
Hit
it's
him with the
not.
first one.
He's not ready.
No, he's not. He's going to get this wrong.
Wow. Thanks for the confidence boost, y'all.
So, this teacher ran the first of 2 marathons when they were a senior in high school.
Okay.
This teacher played the trumpet in a high school marching band.
All right.
In the summers of their college years, they supervised the mountain biking program at a camp in North Carolina.
Okay.
I like this next hint. In middle school, this teacher used to sneak off campus with a buddy to buy now or laters in a gas station across the street.
All right.
In the 9th grade, this teacher and their friends used to play capture the flag with BB guns in the woods around their neighborhood.
Oh,
Okay.
I've done that before.
I was about
That's
to say,
fun.
I've done that
Yeah.
one, but with airsoft guns. BB guns, a little too much for me.
It's just trying not to aim in the eyes.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when I was little, airsoft wasn't a thing. So
That's fair.
it's like you play it with BB guns, and if you're too, you're just going to get embarrassed because you're going to be a chicken if you don't want to do it.
That's,
What do you mean? You don't want to get shot in the eye?
No, that's
Yeah.
actually facts. I can get behind that.
For the record, I think that's a dangerous thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Who's the teacher?
Goodness gracious. I have no. Okay. So
If you have no clue,
Trumpet.
I have another hint that I can give you that may or may not help.
We're going to give him 6 hints. All right, go for
Yeah.
this.
go for it
If you
because
need it.
I don't have any.
Okay, in
Any
this teacher's classroom, he actually has a old BB gun. I don't think it works, but it is contained within this teacher's classroom.
And
Oh.
I can guarantee you do know this. You do know this person.
Oh, this is a faculty member that I know, or a
Absolutely.
Teacher, someone. Okay.
I would be shocked to find out that you did not know this person.
Oh, okay. All right. First marathon was in the 12th grade. Snuck off campus to get an hour later. Is in middle school. BB gun, capture the flag. That means they're probably a little bit older. Maybe not though.
He's trying to Sherlock Holmes this thing. I don't know.
This
if it's
is
gonna
actually
work.
impressive, though. He listed off the facts from
Yeah.
memory.
What was it? So I know I got the first two. What was the third?
In the summers of their college years, they supervised the mountain biking program at a camp in North Carolina, and they also played the trumpet in high school. In the marching band.
So,
my
so
first
a
guess-
little musical too.
Yeah.
My first guess is Paco.
Whoa!
Correct! Oh my gosh.
There's no way.
He is the very first person to ever get one of these right.
No, not quite. Not
Wait,
quite.
well, the first in the time that I've been here.
With the time you've been here, but he is the first person to walk me through his thought process.
That is fantastic. Up top, Ms. Murphy.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, give me some for that. Wow.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic.
I'm shocked.
That's never happened while I was here.
I mean, the whole like, oh, so he's got to be older, and then
Literally, he logicked it out. He Sherlock Holmes it.
that was incredible.
What can I say?
I am blown away.
That last hint was definitely game changer. So
I would not have thought of the last.
I didn't-
Oh, wait.
the BB gun in the
BB gun in the
classroom.
classroom.
I have no idea if I don't know of a BB gun in his classroom. I just know he has a lot of stuff in this classroom.
Also very true.
Logic.
Also very true. I figured it would be a giveaway if I said that I took his class.
Yes, that would have.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
I thought it was between him and Jason Jones. And when you said a lot of stuff in the classroom, it's like, I mean, they both have a lot of stuff in there, but I felt like Paco was more likely to have a BB gun.
Very true.
Valid.
I've may or may not have been threatened with the BB gun before, even though it doesn't shoot. But the terrible Spanish student that I am, I get daily threats from Paco.
Man, I should have done that last year. That would have made Chinese 1 so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Our class would have reacted very well to that.
Shout out to
sure.
Paco, though. He's one of the Spanish teachers and he teaches high school Spanish. What levels of Spanish does he teach?
He teaches everything.
He teaches
Yeah.
everything.
You name Spanish, he teaches the class, and he also basically started what is now the best Spanish program in the Southeast. So
Yeah.
Shout out Paco.
yeah, shout out Paco. He's an absolute stud, and hopefully
is.
this makes up for me being late to class today.
Don't be ridiculous. Wes
I was
is
gonna
never
say-
late to class.
Oh, that's true.
I was going to say Paco would never excuse it for a podcast, but
Absolutely not.
yeah. Good luck though.
Man, we sure about this closing? All right, well, time to get serious. Mr. Murphy, these are some final questions.
All right.
Just to give it, get a little more in depth here.
Okay.
And kind of tie it back to Macaulay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
What does Macaulay mean to you?
For me, I mean, the first answer is it's a place where I could see both myself professionally and my family for the long haul. I love being a teacher. I've been a teacher other places. Macaulay is the first place that I've seen either up close or from a distance where I thought, wow, I could be there a long time and my family could really thrive there. Both like my sons, hopefully they'll come here one day when they're older, but also just the community of boarding students and faculty that live on campus, everything. It's like, wow, this I think is a really rich community for my family to thrive in a way I never would have envisioned before I heard of Macaulay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That is a very good answer.
And we got another final serious question.
Okay.
What advice would you give Macaulay students? Any piece of advice, what would you give them?
Lately, I've been thinking a lot about I guess a combination of things that are connected in my mind. I don't know if they'll be connected when I say them out loud or not. But one is be the person you are in each moment, however you are, in whatever space you're in, and that's okay. You don't have to do anything that's not you, because you're at Macaulay for a reason. You got in the school, not because we want you to, I don't want you to act like some personality that you think that I want in my classroom or in school or in the dorm. I want you, however you are. So be authentically yourself, however goofy, dorky, nerdy, whatever, sports, music, whatever it is, just be authentically yourself. And along with that, there's a whole lot more to you as a person than just as a teacher. I've coming from my angle, there's a lot more to you than just your academic performance. And so I want to remember that as a teacher, but I also want students to remember that. If you get a bad grade, who cares? There's a sense where you could take that the wrong way, but for the most part, there's so much more to life than grades and so much more to your education and development as a person. Like what I want for all of our students is to grow into be mature men who would love and serve their communities well. And part of that's the academics, for sure, but a huge part of that has nothing to do with the academics. And so, like, you need to see yourself as a whole person and take care of yourself, because you're the most precious thing that we have at the school. And so don't make foolish decisions for a grade that are actually going to be harmful to you in the short or the long term. So, like, be yourself. I want a student as they are in my classroom or anywhere on campus. Whether I agree or disagree, whether I like them or not, I still want them to be authentically themselves, even if I don't like that. Like, that's still what I want.
Yeah.
And take care of yourself. So, like, whatever that means, you know? A lot of, like, mental and emotional, physical, health and wellness types of things. Like, that's so important. Take care of yourself. Learn those skills now. I wish I had a better foundation for that when I was your age.
Wow.
I'm telling you, this guy, he's got to be the most thoughtful person we've ever had on the podcast.
That blew me away. I might have to quote you in my chapel talk.
Please do. Please do.
Authentically yourself. I love that. That is fantastic.
Wow.
All right. I don't know if we have anything. I think that might be it.
Yeah, that was a perfect ending.
Wonderful.
To a very wonderful episode.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That was so much fun. It's always interesting to learn about the teachers, especially things outside of school. Even though I may or may not have already known. Dave may have.
I knew about the death metal, but I didn't know about the other stuff. Well, it's when you stop like looking at teachers as teachers and you start seeing them as people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that is. I feel like that's what we like. That's what kind of what the podcast does in a sense. It's like we stop seeing them as just, oh, well, he's a Chinese teacher. No, dude, he is so much more than a Chinese teacher.
And he's a Brandon Sanderson fan.
He's a Brandon Sanderson fan.
I am a Brandon Sanderson fan.
He has read the Wheel of Time series.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That's pretty fantastic.
Well, sweet. Thank you again so much. Guys, be sure to follow us on Instagram for more content. Those guys are pumping new content out all the time. Tons of funny stuff. They like to poke fun at us and make some jokes. So if you want to see me and David get humiliated, that is the place to go. I really should not have said that.
Probably not.
I will definitely check that out now.
Oh, man. All right. Well, join us next week for more hilarious stories, fun times, and interesting people
on Tornado Talk.